Okay, we're going to take a look at adding and subtracting positive and negative integers. Adding or subtracting two integers will result in one of two situations. So either both amounts will go in the same direction. In other words, both will be positive or both negative. So for example, let's get our pointer out here. You might have 4 plus 7. They're both going in the positive direction. Or you might have 2 going in the negative direction. So negative 3 minus 8. So both going negative. The other situation is you might have two amounts going in the opposite direction. So you might have 4, which is going in the positive direction, and subtract 6, which is going in the negative direction. Or you might start with a negative and then add, go in the positive direction. Okay, so let's take a look at the same direction. Now in the same direction, 3 plus 5, of course we already know how to do that. We know that equals 8. So just really quickly, it's going to be, let's say we have 3, which is we're going to go with 3 pluses, and we're going to add 5 more. And so after we count all those up, we're going to see that we have 8 altogether. As far as the thermometer goes, if we start at 0 degrees and the temperature rises 3, we're going to go in the positive direction 3 degrees. And then later on, it increases another 5 degrees. So they're both going in the same direction. So we just add the 3 and the 5 and we get 8. Okay, now we have a situation where maybe we have negative 3 minus 5, so we're going in the negative direction. And so we're going to take a look at negatives. So let's say negatives we're going to treat with negative signs. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and then we're going to have 5 negatives. And so when we're all done, we see that we have 8 negatives altogether. So negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Another way to look at that is in a thermometer situation. We start at 0 degrees and the temperature drops 3 degrees. So it's going down in the negative direction. And then later on it drops another 5 more degrees. So again, it's going in the same direction. And so altogether, from when we started, we've gone down 3 plus 5, we've gone down 8 degrees. So if we have a situation where we have negative 4 minus 6, you look at that and you decide right away, is this going to be positive or negative? I'm going in the same direction, so I lose $4, I lose $6, I'm gonna lose. So it's negative, or temperature drops 4 and then drops 6 more, then it's going to drop altogether. So we add the 4 and the 6 together and we get negative 10. Now one thing that you can do is you circle the sign and the number, or the number and its corresponding sign, and you can just see that you have two situations. You have a negative and a negative here. And here you've got a negative, and then we're going more negative. So we add the 4 and the 6 together. Okay, so let's go now and deal with opposite directions. So in this situation, we start out, we're going to circle the 3 and its negative sign and the 5 and its plus sign. So we have two integers. One's going in the negative direction and one's going in the positive direction. So if we look at it with plus and minus signs, we start out with 3 negatives, and then we go into adding 5 more. So we have 5 positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the negative and the positive cancel out because it's -1 and +1 is just 0. That's 0. And this is 0. So we're left with 2 positives. Another way to look at that is we've got so many negatives and so many positive, and the one with the most is going to be the answer. So there's more positives in this case, so we know that we're going to have the answer is going to be positive, and we have 2 left over. So we subtract the 5 minus 3, we have 2 left over. We have 2 more positives than we do negatives. And then we look over here at the thermometer, and if we start with going at 0 degrees and we drop 3 degrees, so we're going 3 in the negative direction, but then the temperature rises and it goes up 5 degrees, and so what's left over is these 2 degrees right here. So from when we started, we're actually rising 2 degrees. So let's take a look at the next one here. Whoops, -3 minus 3 minus 5. Now in this situation, we're going to start out with 3 positives. And again, I forgot to circle this. So we have a 3 and we have a -5. So we have one that's positive and one that's going negative, two different directions. Oops. And we have 3 positives, and then we have 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 negatives, 3 positives. So we're going to cancel out 1 set, 2 sets, and 3 sets. We have 2 negatives left over. There's more negatives than there are positives, so no, the answer has to be negative. And there's 2 more negatives than positive. And you can do the same thing over here where you start out with 3 degrees, you start at 0 and you rise 3 degrees, and then you come back later and you drop 5 degrees. Okay, we started at the 0 and we ended up 2 degrees lower. After adding 3 and coming back down 5, we ended up with 2 degrees lower. So what you do is you circle these. You go, I'm going in the negative, and I circle this, I'm going in the positive. So that tells me that I have a war of the signs. There's more negative than there are positive. So I know that the answer is going to be negative. And then there's how much more? Well, we just take the 6 and subtract the 2. Take the larger minus the smaller absolute value, so to speak, and you end up with 4, -4. One more. If we do, can't find my, there we are. We have a 5. And then we have a -12. So we have going in the positive direction and we're going in the negative direction. So we have a war of the signs. There's more negative than there is positive, so we know that the answer has to be negative. There is how much more? There's 12 minus 5. There's 7 more negatives than there are positives, so the answer is -7. And that's how that goes. Now we need to go on to the next video.